How the wealthy quietly escape the system. Most people think wealth is about money, but the people at the very top know something far more valuable. Freedom comes from escaping systems that everyone else is trapped inside. While millions spend their lives fighting inflation, taxes, debt, collapsing job security, and endless financial pressure, the wealthy often play by an entirely different set of rules. Quietly, legally, strategically. And most people never even notice it happening. They don't just buy expensive things, they buy distance from the system itself. Different schools, different laws, different investments, different passports, even different realities. And the disturbing part? The higher you climb, the more invisible the escape becomes. So the real question isn't, why are the rich getting richer? It's this: what do wealthy people understand about the system that ordinary people were never taught to see? For most people, the system feels unavoidable. You go to school, get a job, save money, pay taxes, maybe buy a house, and hope that decades of hard work eventually turn into security. That path is treated like the default version of success. But over time, something strange started becoming impossible to ignore. The wealthiest people on Earth rarely live by that same model, not because they work harder, not because they're magically smarter, but because they understand something fundamental about modern systems. Most systems are designed to extract value from people who only know how to participate, not from people who know how to position themselves above them. And once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. Take taxes, for example. The average worker earns income through salaries. That income gets taxed immediately, often before the money even reaches their bank account. But many wealthy individuals structure their money differently. Instead of relying mainly on salaries, they hold appreciating assets, businesses, stocks, real estate, private equity. And here's where it changes everything. In many countries, including the United States, borrowing against assets can allow wealthy individuals to access enormous amounts of money without technically selling the asset and triggering taxes. It's a strategy financial analysts often summarize as buy, borrow, die. Not illegal, not hidden, just inaccessible to people who were never taught how the game actually works. Then there's education. Most people are taught how to become employable. The wealthy are often taught how to become owners. That difference sounds small until you realize ownership changes your entire relationship with the economy. Employees trade time for money. Owners build systems where money continues moving even when they stop working. That's why wealthy families obsess over equity, shares, assets, and acquisitions. They understand that labor creates income, but ownership creates leverage, and leverage is the real currency of the wealthy. Look at how billionaires operate during economic crises. While ordinary people panic during recessions, many large investors quietly go shopping. During the 2008 financial crisis, entire neighborhoods, companies, and assets were purchased at discounted prices by firms and investors with enough liquidity to move when everyone else was afraid. The same pattern appeared during the COVID-era market collapse. While unemployment skyrocketed globally, many of the world's richest individuals saw their net worth increase dramatically as asset prices rebounded. Because the wealthy often don't experience crises the same way average people do. For many workers, a recession means danger. For major asset holders, it can mean opportunity, and maybe the most powerful escape route of all is mobility. For most people, nationality is identity. For the wealthy, it's strategy. Over the last decade, investment migration programs exploded in popularity. Countries like Portugal, Malta, and United Arab Emirates became magnets for high-net-worth individuals offering tax advantages, residency pathways, or business-friendly environments. The ultra-wealthy don't always ask, "Where was I born?" They ask, "Where am I treated best?" And that mindset changes everything, because once people gain enough wealth, they often stop adapting themselves to systems and start choosing systems that adapt to them instead. But this is where the story becomes uncomfortable, because escaping the system isn't only about money anymore. It's about information, access networks, protection, and understanding rules that most people never even realize exist. And the deeper you look into how wealth really operates behind closed doors, the more it starts to feel like there are actually two economies running at the same time. One economy is visible. That's the world most people live in every day. A world where inflation quietly reduces purchasing power while salaries barely move, where people are told to save money in currencies constantly losing value, where entire lives are spent chasing stability that somehow always feels just out of reach. And then there's the second economy, the invisible one, the world of private equity deals, offshore structures, elite networks, tax optimization firms, political lobbying, family offices, citizenship diversification, and asset protection strategies that rarely enter normal conversation. Most people never see this world directly, but they feel its effects constantly. Because wealth at the highest level isn't just about earning more money anymore. It's about designing distance from risk. The average person stores wealth in labor. The wealthy store wealth in systems. That's why the richest families in history almost never rely on a single source of income. They spread influence across industries, countries, currencies, and assets. If one economy weakens, another protects them. If one government changes policy, they have options elsewhere, and that word matters more than almost anything. Options. The wealthy spend enormous amounts of energy creating optionality because optionality creates freedom, the ability to move, the ability to wait, the ability to survive crises without desperation. Most people can't walk away from bad jobs because they need next month's paycheck, but someone with diversified assets, investments, and passive cash flow can make decisions differently. They can negotiate differently. They can think long-term while everyone else is trapped in survival mode. And survival mode changes human behavior. When people are financially stressed, they think shorter, they take fewer risks, they accept conditions they normally wouldn't tolerate. Entire systems become easier to maintain when millions of people are too exhausted to challenge them. That's part of why financial literacy was historically inaccessible to ordinary populations for so long, not because information was secret, because complexity itself became a barrier. Most schools teach people how to calculate taxes, not how tax structures work. They teach students how debt functions, but rarely explain how wealthy corporations strategically use debt as leverage. People learn how to apply for jobs, but almost never how ownership structures shape entire economies. And once you realize that, something else becomes obvious. The wealthy often don't escape the system by breaking rules. They escape by understanding the rules at a level most people never reach. Think about major corporations. Companies legally move profits through jurisdictions with lower tax rates. Billionaires establish trusts to preserve generational wealth. Investors use inflation itself to increase the value of real assets while ordinary savers lose purchasing power sitting in cash. Again, none of this is hidden, but most people are too busy surviving the system to study how the system actually works. And maybe that's the biggest divide of all, because the wealthy don't just buy luxury, they buy time to think. Time to study markets, time to build networks, time to understand laws, time to recognize opportunities before everyone else notices them. Meanwhile, millions of people live under constant urgency. Bills, rent, debt, algorithms fighting for attention every second, endless distractions keeping people reactive instead of strategic, and reactive people are easier to control. But here's the part nobody likes admitting. Not every wealthy person inherited power. And not every ordinary person is permanently trapped. Many people who eventually build real freedom start with one critical shift. They stop seeing money as the goal and start seeing money as a tool for independence that changes how they think about careers, spending, skills, investing, geography, relationships, even time itself. Because escaping the system doesn't always mean becoming a billionaire flying between private islands. Sometimes it means escaping consumer debt, escaping dependence on one paycheck, escaping the idea that your entire worth is tied to employment, escaping the fear that one emergency could destroy your future. Real freedom exists in layers, and the uncomfortable truth is, most people were never encouraged to pursue it seriously. They were encouraged to stay predictable workers, predictable consumers, predictable borrowers. But the moment someone begins understanding leverage, ownership, incentives, and systems, they start seeing the world differently forever. Suddenly headlines make more sense. Economic crises look different. Politics looks different. Even social media starts looking different, because behind almost every major institution is one invisible force shaping decisions constantly.